Hi there guys, so it's time for episode 2 of our AMDetails question and answer sessions. So let's dive on straight in. We asked some questions this afternoon on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Instagram was really good, but let's have a look at a Facebook one. So we've got Andy Bevan and he asks, how to clay a panel and what you need to do first. Okay, so first let's look at a clay bar. A clay bar is a polymer bar, you get them in different weights, and you can also get different types of abrasives on there. What they're used for is removing what we sometimes call organic or man-made things, such as oversprays, your tree saps, and any bonded contaminants you can't remove chemically. That's the key word. So when clay barring, we would advise making sure that you chemically decontaminate your paintwork as much as possible. So that means detarring, and if you can, use a de-iron before. Because one of the biggest problems and kind of horror stories you hear is, oh, I was using a clay bar and I marred my paint a lot, or it looks really black and dirty when I'm finished. Most of the problems with that is that people haven't detarred the panel enough. So they end up, the clay bar removes all the tar and turns it into a wet sanding block, and you make a mess of your paintwork. Tips on using a clay bar. Most of them you have to use a clay lubricant. For ours you can just use water. It kind of lubes itself, so it's really good. Or you can use a watery solution with shampoo, or you can use a quick detailer. It can be quite expensive using a quick detailer. There's also some dedicated clay lubricants out there. So first of all, we clean down the car and, as I say, chemically decontaminate as far as possible. And then it really is as simple as highly lubricate the panel, rub the clay bar onto the car with a light pressure, and then you can literally feel the contaminants coming off. Check the clay bar every now and again, and when you see it's dirty, just fold them contaminants away. Really should have had a clay bar for showing you guys this. Then just continue around the car. Some people say that's it, when you're done, get rid. But you can use it just like your mum downgrades the washing, and you can use it next for windscreens, alloy wheels. Don't forget that you can clay bar these areas as well. Is that everything for clay barring? I think we've pretty much nailed everything there. So hope that answers your question, Andy. Give me a shout in the comments. Up next we've got Matthew. What is a glaze? Is it instead of a polish or as well as a polish? And do you have to be sealing it in with a wax after application? Okay, so this is quite a big one. You'll see a lot of and ahhing online on this. So I'm just going to give you what our definition is and why we call AMGlaze a glaze and not a polish. So we call it a glaze because AMGlaze doesn't have any abrasives in it. And that's really my personal distinguishing factor between the products. If it has any sort of abrasive in it where you can do correctional stuff in the polish, then I would call it a polish. If it's only going to fill, clean, etc., then I would call it a glaze. So our AMGlaze fills and cleans the surface of the paint. It won't actually do any correcting. If you're using glaze and even after an IPA wipe and you pulled out all the fillers, you find that you've corrected, it's generally due to the cutting mechanics of the foam or of the machine polishing pad that you're using. Does it have to be sealed in with a wax after application? Yes. With our AMGlaze it does have a bit of carnauba in there, so when you're applying it to the panel, the longer you leave it, the better the carnauba will adhere to the panel and you'll get a longer durability out of it. But ideally, it's always best to put a protection on there, a sealant or a wax afterwards. Which leads very nicely into Luke's question, which is, what is the best order to apply your glaze, paint, sealant and wax? And in fact, Luke, you did quite well in asking that question because that is the order, and I'm going to go into the reason why. So AMGlaze, you use it to clean and fill the paintwork. So work away at that, onto the panel, straight on, straight off. No real need to let it cure for time. As I said before, if you do, you're going to let the carnauba in there bond so that you do get some protection, but we're going to put a sealant and a wax on afterwards, so there's no real need. Straight on, straight off. You can also use it on the plastics and on your windows. It won't make the plastics go back to black, and when you're using it on the windows, it cleans them up really good. After you've done that, do you need to apply another coat? What it's going to do is it's going to fill up these paint defects. So you might want to put a couple more coats in there. You'll find the second and third are easier because it's not having to do as much cleaning as it did the first time. For us, it's then a sealant. There's a couple of reasons for that. A sealant is synthetic, so a wax needs to breathe. It's going to need time to breathe, it's organic. So ideally you want to put it on last. But another reason, and the reason we chose the type of formulation that AMSeal is you'll notice whenever it sits on your shelf that it looks split. That polymer sealant on the bottom is going to fall down in between all the nooks and crannies of glaze and kind of cement them together and help bond them into your paintwork to make that last longer. Wait half an hour, put another coat on, and that one then gives you your protection barrier. Then you can put AMWax on, or your chosen wax, sorry. When applying the waxes, little at a time. People, the biggest mistake they make is they put way too much product on, and then they have issues where they're going, oh, I can't seem to get the wax off, or they'll let it dry for too long. Really see how long it goes. One couple of dabs on top of that pad really should do a whole bonnet. So what is the best order? Glaze, paint, sealant and wax. So I think that's nailed the order and the reasons why. You would glaze, use a paint sealant to bond it all together, and then use a wax. The other reason I was touching on before is a sealant is a synthetic, a man-made product. So it's not really needing much time to breathe off, whereas a wax does. It's a natural product. So when the first time you're applying it, as in you've done your wash and you're going to do it for the first time, it's glaze, seal, wax. If you want to be using a wax, whatever is the last thing you apply to the car is how the water is going to behave. So if you prefer the water behaviours of a sealant, then you'll want it to be the last thing. So you might just want to go glaze and seal. Or some people get really into the nitty-gritties of sealants help to make your flake pop, and they can make your whites look wetter, and waxes help your deeper glosses, excuse me, I knew I'd mess up my words today, deeper glosses, and they also give that wet look on like solid paints and stuff. But you can stack them the other way around, you just have to wait. So if you've done glaze, seal and wax, and then you come to wash your car again, and AMSeal's super easy to use, you just need a little bit, work your way around the car, it takes 5-10 minutes to dry and buff it off, then you can do that on top of AMWax, just not the initial time when you're using the products. But just remember, in doing that, whatever's on the top is how the water will behave. So after doing that, you might get your look benefits still of the wax that's underneath the sealant, but the water behaviour will behave as the sealant has. So hopefully that's nailed them 3 questions for you, and that should be it for episode 2. So please do ask us plenty of questions, guys. Get us on social media, that's Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also email us, sales@amdetails.co.uk. Just keep an eye on the social medias and we'll ask some more questions. Hi there guys, so I hope you really enjoyed that video. If you did, please like it below. If you've got any questions on it, fire us a comment. And if you want to see more, then subscribe. You can also find us at www.amdetails.co.uk, and we're on all the social medias. You just got to search for AMDetails.